Chapter 34. Nico's POV. Hours had passed and Chloe's condition had been steadily improving. Thankfully, my worry for her had almost completely diminished, and I think her own worry for herself was already gone. Surprisingly, she hadn't asked any of the questions that I knew she had about this night. Even though it was late and I could tell that she was tired, I knew she had them as she always did. Although, I guess she was pretty occupied at this moment. I turned my head towards her, watching as she curiously observed one of my wings. She had taken a huge interest in them ever since she woke up. So, I laid down on my stomach once she was well enough to sit up onto her knees without her body retaliating, and stretched one of them out to her to let her do whatever she wanted with it. Watching her was kind of interesting, it almost looked like she was entranced by it, studying every part of it so closely. She was so cautious in everything that she did with it, touching it lightly like she would hurt me if she didn't. Even the way she would slightly push on a certain spot to tell me to fold it a bit was gentle. "You're sure I'm not hurting or annoying you, right?" she questioned yet again, drawing her hand back ever so slightly. I gave a small nod. "I'm sure. It would take a lot more than whatever a human could do to hurt a vampire's wings. They only showed up when we were in danger for a reason." And she wasn't even close to being annoying. Chloe's eyes followed down my wing, her eyes stopping where it met with my back. Or she was just staring at my back again. I did ditch my shirt before I let her mess with my wings, and I didn't miss the occasional glances she would send to me. Wearing a torn-up shirt wasn't really my thing, and wearing a shirt while my wings were out was useless. "It must be nice," Chloe spoke softly, "getting these every once in a while." She sounded as if she was reminiscing about something. "Yay, it is," I began, trying to mirror the calmness of her voice. "Getting them during a blood moon kind of gives me a mixed emotion about them, but they're convenient to have." She hummed a bit in response. "I've always wondered what it would be like to have wings. To just be able to fly out into the night and not have to worry about anything other than where I was headed. I've always imagined the feeling of pure freedom and peace vampires must have as they sail through the sky." I could tell that she had thought this over for a long time. Sometimes it just totally skips my mind that humans have never experienced the feeling of flight before. Even as a vampire, I savored that feeling. Our wings never showed up when we were in a good situation, so just being able to go out for a calm fly was rare even for us. Well, for me. Some of us didn't even care that they had wings. So if I longed for that kind of experience, that I can't even begin to think about how she felt. "I could take you some time," I said. Chloe's eyes went wide before she turned her head towards me, questioning my words. "Really?" she asked. I nodded. It would have to be a time that wasn't during that blood moon, but it was surely possible. "Sure," I responded, looking back at my wings. "You could probably fit between them without getting in the way of anything important, so I don't see why not." Her entire face lit up as I spoke those words. "That sounds amazing," she said, sounding as if she couldn't believe what I had said. Even if she was just my pet, everything should feel the experience of flying at least once, especially if they'd dreamed about it as much as she apparently had. Plus, I could use that as returning the favor for what she did for me tonight. I was about to say something, but paused once I noticed her smile. I don't think I've ever seen her smile for more than a couple seconds, and that was only once, so this was a bit new to me. Admittedly, I came to enjoy the sight of it. It fit her perfectly. "One day, Chloe. Once I figure out the right way to do it, I'll take you. I'm not sure how long until it'll happen." Chapter 35. Chloe's POV. I was alive. That whole idea was so weird to me. I actually survived a blood moon. Not only that, but everything that came after that was weird to me as well. I looked up as Nico hung up his call, setting the phone down on the desk where it always sat. I debated asking him what the call was for since I was too deep in my own thoughts to pay attention, but decided to stay quiet. I had been quiet ever since we woke up, and well, so had Nico. For some reason, things just felt weird between me and him. I'm not really sure if he felt it, but I for sure was feeling it. Maybe I was just overreacting again. Then again, He was acting differently than he was last night, not to mention that I disobeyed him more times than I'd care to remember. Maybe that's why he was quiet. I shifted uncomfortably, hugging my knees closer to my body. I couldn't tell if he was mad at me or not. Any other time that I had seen him mad, he was visibly so and even vocal about it. But he was just unusually quiet and it made me nervous. There's no way he wasn't the slightest bit mad about what happened. Not that I wanted him to be, but I just wanted some sort of answer or relief. "Breakfast will be soon," he said plainly, turning towards me slightly. I looked up quickly to meet his eyes since, despite the fact that his wings have been gone since sunrise, he still hadn't put on a shirt. "Oh okay," I replied quietly, inching my way towards the edge of the bed. "Should I get ready?" "No," he said as he leaned back against the desk, setting his hands on it for support. "I just told the slave to bring it up here, so just go sit on the couch." I looked at him questioningly as I hung my legs over the side of the bed. "Why?" He just looked at me for a moment, his eyes shifting to the door for a moment before looking back at me. The bodies. My stomach turned as I quickly faced the floor. I knew how lucky I was for surviving last night, but I forgot that not everyone else shared that same luck. I took a deep breath. Nothing could be done about it. They're dead, so there was no use worrying about it, I told myself. I just hoped that dough was okay. "I see," I said as I removed myself from the bed, feet meeting the cold wooden floor. Black dots began to fill my vision as I stood, followed immediately by extreme lightheadedness. I didn't even notice that I was losing my balance until something grabbed me and I quickly returned the gesture out of instinct. My breath caught in my throat as soon as the sensation disappeared and I realized that my arms were wrapped around his bare waist. He held me by my shoulder with one of his arms, holding me against his body to prevent me from falling as he just looked down at me casually. Sorry," I sputtered out of my own embarrassment, removing my arms from around him. His grip loosened on me as I stood up straight. "It's to be expected," he began as he walked me over to the couch. "Your body is still recovering." I just gave him a slight nod in return, keeping my eyes on the ground to avoid any further embarrassment. A knock came from the door as we approached the couch, and Nico made sure that I was comfortable on the couch before he went to go open it. He was acting very strange. In fact, now that I think about it, he'd been acting strange ever since I woke up last night. I intertwined my fingers, holding my hands near my knees. Nico closed the door, now holding a tray with a single plate on it and a glass of what looked like milk. But there was no plate for me. My hands tightened around each other. Did he decide to not feed me as punishment? I chewed nervously on the inside of my lip. I never wanted that to happen again, but I guess I deserved it for what happened. My eyes widened as he set the plate and glass on the coffee table in front of me, then went on to go and put the tray outside the door. I just stared at the food in confusion for a moment. Waffles covered in strawberries and whipped cream, lightly dusted with powdered sugar. It looked amazing. I looked back. Chapter 36. Chloe's POV. There was a noticeable lack of pets at the dinner table. I tried not to think about it too much until I finished my food. Nico told me that I had to eat to help me feel better faster, so I wanted to hurry and do so before the reality of what happened to all of them could hit me. So many of them were gone, just overnight. Like a massacre. And no one but me seemed to be too bothered about that. Sometimes I forget that this was a common occurrence for every vampire in here. As far as I know, all of the pets that were here yesterday morning will be replaced with new ones by tomorrow. So I guess 7 was too many for Doe to survive then? Nico asked the vampire to his right. I turned my head a bit at the sound of her name. She wasn't with Xander, which pretty much meant only one thing. I felt my shoulders slump as I thought this over, the confirmation that she was gone sinking in. Even though we didn't really know each other, I just felt upset over the fact that she was gone. Xander leaned away from his food, raising a brow. "What are you talking about?" he asked with his mouth half full. Nico just looked at him for a moment, trying to decide whether he was being serious or not. "Your pet, Xander. She's not here, so I'm assuming she's dead." he said casually. Xander blinked at him for a moment before swallowing the food in his mouth. Oh, no, she's fine, he replied normally before taking another bite of his food. Both me and Nico were surprised to hear him say that. Define fine, Nico told him. Xander's eyes shifted to the side. She's alive? Is all he said. Okay, he was definitely acting weird. Why did that sound like more of a question than an answer? I don't know. Why am I being questioned all of the sudden? He snapped, making me flinch back against Nico. He didn't even bat an eye at Xander's unusual outburst, but his thumb did lightly rub soothingly against my leg once I flinched. Well, someone's hostile, he responded, calmly taking a sip from his glass. Xander sighed as he leaned forward, setting his elbows on the table. Both of his hands ran through his hair before he just rested his head on his hands. I'm stressed as shit, dude, he said quietly. I had to think over his words for a second. Wasn't he the one that said that living without a care in the world was easier than stressing? Nico's brows rose before a very amused smirk peeked on his face. Wow, really? You stressed? That's unheard of. He spoke with a mix of amusement and sarcasm that I had never seen from him before. What on earth could be stressing out the champion of not giving a shit? It was obvious that he liked seeing Xander like this. And to be honest, so did I. Xander took another deep breath before looking at Nico, his confident expression being nowhere in sight. Layla told me that she was going to look for a new pet tomorrow, and so I panicked and told her that I'd go with her because I needed a new one too. He spoke quickly, his face now showing worry. All three of us just sat in silence for a moment. The first thing I remembered when I heard the name, Layla, was how she was the one who sucked her pet dry because she was bored of it. I quickly jumped out of my thoughts once Nico started laughing. It was a quiet laugh as not to draw too much attention to this conversation, but at this point, vampires were beginning to leave the dining hall, so he didn't have to hold back that much. I had never heard him actually laugh before, so this was new to me. It was smooth, it fit him perfectly. And the smile that he was showing while he laughed. I wasn't used to that either. Wow. So you're hiding dough from Layla since you couldn't think of any other excuse to go with her, he said amongst his laughter. I'm not hiding her, he quickly defended, I'm just giving myself some more time to think of how I'm going to do this. I literally lied to Layla, Nico. Nico just shrugged. You could just get another pet. Give dough someone to play with. I don't want another pet, and I'm not getting